Welcome back to the Project Return Online Classroom. My name is Elizabeth and I'm your program manager. And today we're going to be doing some poetry, and it's one of my favorite poems actually. It's Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou, who we all love, and we've talked about some of her poems in class. And the poem I selected for us today is Still I Rise. It's a great inspirational poem that I know all of you are going to love. So, without further ado, let's get to reading it. Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I'll rise. Do you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain I rise. I'm a black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. So how did you like that reading of the poem? Every time I read it, I get a little bit of chills. It just happens. So Maya Angelou's Still I'll Rise. So what's the first thing I want to talk about? Who is you? She starts off the poem with, you may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. Who is she talking to? You. And historically, what do we know about that? She's talking about African American oppression. And it can be, historically speaking, what Maya Angelou intended, but it could also be something different. Who does you mean to you? Who is the author talking to? You may write me down in history. Who writes the history? Who gets to decide? And so in this first stanza, she's talking about the judgment of the ones who write history. They're the ones who decide, but she doesn't care. She doesn't care about that. She will rise. So the second stanza, she says, I'm sassy. She's sassy, quick, witty, clever. Does the sassiness offend you? Does it offend you that I'm witty, quick, and clever? Why are you beset? You're troubled. You're surrounded by gloom when you see me as being sassy and free. And she talks about how she's got oil wells pumping in her room. Oil wells. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more at the end, because oil wells pumping in her room, she's using this as a describing almost like a wealth that she has. This huge wealth of security and power of her own. The security and the wealth of being able to rise against adversity. So just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides. She used certainty because it is certain. So long as the tides, as the moon and the sun and the earth spin, and they create the oceans, they create the tides, the sun will rise, the sun will set. It's inevitable. That's nature. She's describing her hope and springing high and all of that rising up as being a natural aspect of who she is, a natural aspect of people to rise like the sun and the moon in the sky. So do you want to see me broken? Again, we're talking about you. Is she talking about society? Is she talking about a specific person, a specific group that marginalized other people perhaps? Who is she talking to? And then the people that seek to break you down, those are the people that she's referring to in this fourth stanza. You want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes. Do you want to see me broken down? Is that what you want for this person that she's talking to? Do they want that for her? And again, she talks about teardrops and soulful cries. It's a suffering that she felt. So then the 5th stanza, does my haughtiness offend you? Now, she's described herself as sassy and now haughty. And then she also describes, again, the gold mine, a symbol of wealth. And this wealth that she has, this strength that she has to persevere and to rise above her circumstances that are trying to bring her down. And so she also feels in this stanza that this is a noble thing, that this is validated for her. And then the 6th stanza, you may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air I'll rise. I love this stanza. Vivid imagery, vicious words that she uses to describe shoot, cut, kill. Shoot me, cut me, kill me. That's what she's saying. You can do all that, but still like air I'll rise. So the other thing when she says this is she's confronting them with words. Your looks won't hurt me. Your eyes can try to cut me, but they won't hurt me. I will rise. That's what she's saying. Does my sexiness upset you? So now she's described herself as sassy, haughty, and sexy. And obviously we know what she means when she says sexy. And she also, again, brings up this idea of wealth, this object of wealth, diamonds. She compares her sexuality to diamonds as a priceless thing that we pursue, that we want, that we desire. She describes her sexuality as a precious stone. And she's dancing. I love that. That I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs. She's dancing. She doesn't care. She is just free with it. So out of the huts of history's shame, I rise up from a past that's rooted in pain. So she's talking about the huts of history's shame and the past that's rooted in pain. And we know, again, historically, she's talking about African Americans. But we can also think about this as other marginalized groups, right? The huts of history's shame, the institution, the foundation, the collective place where shame was created against other groups of marginalized people. And that could be all kinds of different things. I like to think of it all the time with my poetry is about how does this poetry reflect my experience as an adult with mental illness? And so how do we experience our lives and approach it in a poem such as this one in a way that can fit our experience and the way we understand and experience the world. So awesome. She's talking about sexy, haughty, sassy. So she's wonderful. I love her. And so out of the huts of history's shame, out of the institutions that kept us down, that bound us, past a past that's rooted in pain. You know, history has a lot of pain in it. So struggling past that, rising up against a history of pain can be a struggle that's worthwhile. Because as Maya Angelou repeats, the repetition in her poem is she rises. I will rise. I rise, I rise, I rise. And in the last stanza, she invokes the imagery of night and day. And we've seen this in a lot of poems where people use night and day as descriptive words to describe the experience of darkness versus light, growth from a dark, despairing place into a place of hope. And as she says in the poem, springing high, bringing gifts that her ancestors gave, learning from her history, learning from the things that were passed down from her ancestors, their history, their experiences, their wisdom, and incorporating that into her entire understanding of who she is. She will rise. She's incorporating her history and the dreams of her ancestors before her, the dreams of freedom, of equality. So what is the poem about? The poem is about overcoming adversity, overcoming prejudice, overcoming obstacles, all kinds of different things. And again, thinking about marginalized people and the histories behind marginalization of people, especially the mentally ill and African Americans and the Jewish population, all of these different things. It's also somewhat of a discussion about overcoming stigmas and stereotypes. And next week, we're going to talk some more about stigmas and stereotypes in our psychology class. So I hope you'll join me then. And as always, thank you for joining me for this class. Hopefully you'll come to another poetry class and this was interesting for you. If you have any comments, like, subscribe, and if you have any input on what would make this even better for you, let me know. I would love to hear from you. So thank you so much and have a great day.